Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Leadership Coaching Podcast with Joel Smith and Joe Baker. We're here to help you develop your superpowers. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com. Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I am Joel Smith, and I am with my friend Joe Baker. Joe, what's happening today?
Oh, it's a beautiful day here. I'm ready for a great podcast.
Yeah, it's raining here, and it's a little cold. I took my dog for a walk a little while ago, and she decided this was the day for the long walk. So I had to thaw out a little bit when I got back in. So anyway, hey Joe, we're going to be talking about sales today. And I know you love that. I know you love sales and marketing and fundraising and all of that stuff. And
where the action is.
Yeah, this will be right up your alley. So in our virtual studio today, we have Chris Robinson. And Chris, I met Chris for 30 seconds about 4 years ago. I shook his hand. I'm sure he doesn't remember that, but and if he does, I'll be incredibly impressed. But Chris is he's a keynote speaker, corporate leadership trainer, and executive coach. He is the executive vice president of Maxwell Entrepreneurial Solutions. And Chris, that's how I know you. I'm a John Maxwell guy. And I went down to Orlando in 2017 and got to hear you speak and talk a little bit. And it's just really impressed with what you bring to the table here. You're kind of an expert in sales, and I think that's where I know you from. Just from going through that sales lane on the John Maxwell training. So that's terrific. So hey, welcome to the program.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on, Joel. Joe, great to be here with you guys today. It's funny, Joel, you said, hey, we met for 30 seconds in 2017. Hey, but we're here today as a result of that. And earlier today, I walked into the office here, and there was a gentleman in the office who says, Chris, do you remember me? I said, no, I don't remember. He goes, well, 3 years ago, I bumped into you at an IMC, and I said, Chris, can I ask you a few questions? He says, Chris, you told me you got 2 minutes. He goes, and we spoke for 2 minutes, and that led to another conversation with someone else in the organization. That person gave me 3 minutes, and then that 3 minutes led to another conversation with the CEO. He goes, and Chris, I'm here to tell you, I'm here today because of that 2 minute conversation. So look, you never know when a 30-second conversation, a 2 minute conversation is going to lead you. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So wow. You had two in the same day then, huh?
Same day.
Yeah. Hey, I'm glad you're going to give me more than 3 minutes though. Otherwise this would be a really quick podcast. So anyway, so Chris, we were talking before the program, coming up with a title or a topic. And I really thought it would be good to talk about sales in the light of servanthood. Selling is serving. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because sometimes when you hear the word sales or salesperson, there can be a little bit of a negative stigma from that, right? I mean, we've all bought cars before and seen door-to-door people. But so Chris, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of an idea, maybe where you came from and your history with sales and what brought you to where you're at now?
Well, I've done every aspect of sales that you can think of. After being kicked out of college 6 times, I was kicked out of college 6 times. I know many of you are going, how in the world did you get kicked out of college 6 times? Well, the better question is, how did I get back into college 6 times? And that was because I had an undeveloped skill of selling. And so after being asked to leave on the 6th time, I decided that I was going to go out and sell. And so I have sold perfume and cologne on the street. I've sold furniture. I've sold futons. I've sold, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance, everything that you could think of. I have.
Wow. Wow.
But what always drew me to sales was always the upside potential that was available. You know, I came from a blue collar background. Both of my parents worked for General Motors. And so, of course, when I came out of school, the most logical idea was, hey, you need to come to General Motors and you need to apply for a job there. It's good, consistent. But that never sat well with me. And why I was always drawn to sales is because there was this thing called commission. Now, I remember the first time I heard the word commission, I was 16 years old in the back of a warehouse at Burlington Coat Factory in Oklahoma City. And I remember a friend of mine, he was older because he was old enough to actually be on the sales floor. He had on a shirt and tie. He was out there talking to all the girls and he made commission. That meant that he had upside potential. He could make more than he worked for. And I was in the back of the warehouse. There was no girls. There was, no nice clothing. And it didn't matter what we did. My friend and I made the exact same money, no matter what we did. So I had a draw to sales because of the upside potential. Now that worried my mother sick because, it was either feast or famine in the early days of sales because you kill what you eat what you kill. And she's like, why can't you just get a regular job? And that was just never inside of me to do that. I always loved that pursuit of, hey, I can do more and I have potential to make more by having the ability to sell. So I've always been drawn to sales and been in love with sales my entire life.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about that extra potential, because really with sales, it's one of those things that it's whatever you make of it. It puts the control in your hands, doesn't it? Whereas other types of careers and positions, you do a specific thing, and there's not necessarily a great way to double your income. Where in sales, wow, doubling your income can just be the start.
Right, that's correct. And the income was a driver of that. And so it's a skill that I knew that, hey, this is something I wanted to develop and grow. And fortunately, around the age of 21, I got into, after I was licensed as a stockbroker, I ended up meeting a gentleman that had just started a call center. Now, I had struggled as a insurance salesperson, and I was just getting started in insurance sales. And this guy, my wife was friends with this lady at church, and her and her husband were going through a divorce at the time. And her and my wife became good friends, and we were just friends with this lady, during that time period. And they ended up getting back together. And he says, well, hey, I understand that you've been great to my wife. I've got this great call center that I've started. I'd love to give you a job. He says, if you're good at it, you can make $10,000 to $12,000 a month if you're good or average. And I was 21 years old at the time. And I thought, I'm looking around the room like,
wow, that's a lot of money.
Like,
wow.
I could make that type of money. And I remember making that transition because I had just sold some insurance, and with insurance, you get paid on the front side of the sale. And I made $1,200 in a day, and I thought, oh man, I found it. I'm going to sell insurance for life, and this is going to be great. I'm going to build this out. And then that same week, this guy tells me this, and I've got to hand this check back to this new insurance company that I had just started with, because I said, I'm going to go take a job with this guy at this call center. He had just told me that I can make $10,000 to $12,000 a month. They're like, that sounds way too good to be true. There's no way. Like, you're making a bad choice. I mean, they condemned me bad. I mean, it was bad. But I reluctantly handed the check back to them. And I went over to that organization, and he was correct. And that's when I began around age 21, making six figures as a salesperson at a call center, and growing with that company from 18 employees to over 800 in a 6-year time period. And so I've seen tremendous growth in as a salesperson, as a sales manager, and as a people developer is what that really turned into and opened the door for me as I got into that. So it's been an incredible ride.
Yeah. So Chris, how did you get involved with the John Maxwell team? I know I'm part of the really big table. I sit at the table with 20,000 people. You sit at the real small table. It's like you and a handful of people and John.
Yeah. It's me and John, and a couple others. I played golf with John this weekend. And so I'm at a smaller table, but I got started with John Maxwell in the basement of a church. When I was with that call center, one of the things, I was employee number 18 at that call center. And so I knew that there was going to be opportunity for growth with this organization because of how small it was, because of how young it was, because of how ambitious the owner was. And I said, man, I've got to do something to stand out. And so the church that I was attending at the time was offering a course by John Maxwell on VHS. It was the 21 Laws of Leadership. And so I would go into the classroom, I would watch this VHS of John. I would then go back into the workplace. I was applying these principles. And that was really the trek of me falling in love with personal growth and development. And so I did those courses, every single course that the church offered. I took those courses. At the end of it, they said, Chris, do you want to be a facilitator? I said, absolutely. I'd love to be a facilitator. They said, would you? I said, what does that consist of? They said, well, come in the classroom, press play, and then when you're done, turn off the lights. It wasn't a big job, but that allowed for me to hear the information again for the second time. And I was able to apply it at a different level. And, out of that, I began to really take my job as a sales manager much more seriously in developing people. So my passion then became, how do I become the manager, the leader that produces the most managers? And that became my end game is, can I get the most people promoted? Now, incidentally, that turned into me becoming a top sales manager and producing top sales people because my only focus was getting them to the next level. And I fell in love with just developing people, which in turn led me down the path of, finding out more about Toastmasters, which, led me down the path of attending more conferences and events, which led me down the path of eventually finding John Maxwell team and, going after becoming a full-time coach, speaker, and trainer.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Are you still in sales now with John Maxwell in some capacity?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I teach in the sales and business building lane for coaches and speakers and trainers. And of course, as the VP of John Maxwell team, I'm selling, becoming a member of the John Maxwell team is what we do full time now as well.
I've been working on Joe, by the way.
Yep. Oh, come on, Joe. You're missing out, Joe.
Yeah. And so with sales, what would you say your kind of secret is to get over the hump of being afraid to make the close? What do you think is the thing that kind of is your superpower with sales that allows you to do that?
Yeah, it's being detached from the outcome. It's being detached from the outcome. And I really think that's something that I've developed over the years. Because what happens a lot of times in sales, we think we take everything personal. We think that, hey, when they don't want my service, they don't like me, or they don't want me, or I'm not of value because they said no. When I have someone say no, it's like, okay, that's great. I'm supposed to help. I was put on this planet to help and serve somebody, not everybody. So the fact that Joe hasn't joined us yet on the John Maxwell team, I'm not offended by that. I might not be the voice for Joe, but at some point in time, I may be the voice for Joe, but I'm not going to create that story that him saying yes or no has anything to do with my value. And I think a lot of times people have that feeling that, hey, they take it personal and they get attached to the outcome. I was just on what we call a mentorship program where they have access to us, 6 days a week. And I had a team member that was on and saying, well, Chris, these people, they haven't responded to my email and, they don't want to work with me. Why don't they just say, I said, whoa, pause. I said, why are you so emotionally attached to this deal, whether it's for you or not? She goes, I never thought about it. She's like, but this is keeping me up at night that they haven't responded. I said, why? You see, the thing that I believe is if I have to convince you, Joe, if I have to sell you with all my fiber in my body, I'm going to always have to sell you. And what I
Mm-hmm.
believe is that if we're supposed to work together, well, I want to be where I'm celebrated, not where I'm tolerated. If I've got to
Yeah.
twist your arm to get there, I'm going to have to keep twisting your arm.
Yeah.
But if I'm supposed to work with you and you're open and accepting of that and you feel that as well too, well then great. This relationship is going to be easy. We'll both go further, we'll both go faster. But if I'm just trying to twist you and take from you and just sell for the sake of selling, that's always a bad deal. And I never want to be in that place.
Yeah. I love that idea of separating yourself from the outcome. Joe and I did a program here a while back, a month or so ago, and Joe was talking about leading measures and lagging measures. And Joe tells a great story. We don't need to tell it today, but it tells a great story about leading measures and how so often we put forth initial efforts up front. And when we don't see the results right away, we give up.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is hey, you got to do it. You got to just get in there and do it. Don't measure yourself in the moment by the results that you think you're going to have or not have. Measure yourself by what you're doing right now and those leading measures. And so I think that's really important for sales.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Joe is right with the leading measure. And the way that I illustrate that picture is if I have some corn seed here today and I go out and throw that in the grass and I come back to Joel tomorrow and say, well, Joel, I planted some corn seed yesterday. Where's my corn? Joel would look at me like I'm crazy and go, well, Chris, there's a time period for that. You've got to water it. Corn takes this long to grow. And the thing about sales is that oftentimes we don't know how long that gestation period is. So we are going out there, we're doing the things that we need to do. We're making the prospects, we're building the relationships, we're nurturing those relationships. But when that person decides to convert, that's not on us. Okay, that's on that individual. And I always keep that space open to make it a safe space for them to come back or convert or to be able to reap a harvest at any point in time. So taking that time to understand that, hey, there's a time and a place for everyone. Just because they don't buy from you today doesn't mean that they're not going to buy from you 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Just be consistent in adding value and being a person of value, but don't create a story that you diminish yourself in the process.
yeah. It's that law of cause and effect that when we really get that and we understand that when we understand that every time you plant a bunch of corn, every time you're going to get a harvest if you can wait. It's not like sometimes just none of the corn grows and other times it just grows haywire. It always grows because it's part of the natural laws of the laws of nature, and it's just the way things are. And it's the same thing. If you follow a recipe in your business, if you follow a recipe in selling and you do the due diligence up front, it's always going to work out that way. It's kind of like if you're always nice to people, they're going to be nice to you.
That's correct. Well, and that's the thing too, though, is that I think when it comes to entrepreneurs and business owners, we never set unrealistic goals, but often we set unrealistic timelines.
True.
The goal is never unrealistic. The timeline may be unrealistic. And what people tend to do is give up if that timeline isn't in match, where your circumstances don't look like they're on pace with where you want to be. But if you can continue on, like you said, Joel, to water the seed, to fertilize the seed and be able to have that time and realize that everything is 3 parts: seed, time, and then harvest. But we all get frustrated in that time. That time isn't given to us to know how long is this going to work. I think about, I remember very early on, as I came into the program as a team member, that there was another team member locally that wanted to meet me. And he said, well, Chris, he goes, the reason I wanted to meet you is because I really believe that we're going to be competition at some point. I said, well, no, we're a pretty collaborative organization. I don't think we're going to be competition. My voice is built for somebody. Your voice is built for somebody. I'm positive there's a way that you can work out. He says, no. We know a lot of the same people. We might be competition. I said, no, it's fine. I said, but let me ask you a question. How long can you do this before you have to get a job? He said, well, if this doesn't work by January, and it was July, he says, I'm going to have to get a job. I said, well, we won't be competition at all. He said, why is that? I said, I don't have a quit date. And so it goes beyond, a period of time. And I think a lot of people, They set that time. If it doesn't work by then, they say, hey, I've got to go do something else. But I think the difference maker in many entrepreneurs is that the ones that make it, or the above average, are the ones that say, hey, I'm going to do this until it works. That's a major difference and a major shift for people.
Yeah, there's a level of commitment that needs to be there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will do things conditionally. I'll try. I'll give it a shot for a while, and kind of test the water, see what happens, and I'll dip one toe in the water and see what's. But yeah, that doesn't get you anywhere. So yeah, I appreciate that. Well, hey, Chris, we appreciate you being here on the show, and we always like to ask our guests, a question of what's the one what's the one superpower that you have that has served you, that's helped you make a difference in other people's lives?
Yeah, it's a smile. I mean, it's a smile.
Yeah, that's so true.
That is a great answer.
Yeah,
it's a smile. It doesn't matter if I've got a conference with 1,000+ people on and stuff is going wrong. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to smile and we're going to continue on. It doesn't matter if things are going great. I'm going to smile, and that's what you're going to get from me. I have that ability to keep that smile going, not in an unauthentic way, but it's like, hey, this is stuff I can't control. Hey, let's keep it light. I love, there's a pin that I have that I enjoy. It's got an inscription on it. It says that if you can keep your head while all about lose theirs, then you'll be a man, my son. And that is a inscription that I love, because when I can maintain that smile underneath any type of circumstances, that's when I believe I stand the strongest. And I believe that's what the superpower is the power of the smile.
Nice. Joe, that's probably our best answer, isn't it?
one of them. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
the top.
That is a great answer. So,
I was thinking about your message about you got to detach from the sale. And, a lot of times when people are in sales, there's almost this sense of like kind of desperation in them where they need the sale. Yeah. And I like to say, like, kind of desperation is the worst cologne to wear. Yeah. If people smell it and they see it and it turns them away. And when you detach, you really are kind of saying, hey, I don't care if you buy this or not. I just really want to have I think this product's the best thing out there for you, and I just want it to serve you. And that's true in fundraising too. I remember saying things like, I really believe God's called me to this ministry and he's going to fulfill this project, but I would just love to have you be a part of it. Or when I sold precious metals, there was a time where I'd be like, hey, it's like, I don't care if you buy metal. I just think it's a great way to protect your family. If there ever is a currency crisis, it's like, there's a huge opportunity for metals if the dollar were to really severely get hit. And so those are different ways that I think about it, but I think you're dead on. You really, money is a byproduct of serving people. And when we're serving people, it's not about us and it's not about our own desperation. It's about us trying to get on their side of the table, helping them be better, and if we can achieve that and we can achieve them getting the better end of the deal, that's like the best kind of sales.
It is. But you're right about the desperation. But here's the thing about the desperation. The desperation, when that comes off, that is because you're only thinking about you. You're thinking about what you need this check for, why you need to close this deal, what goal you're trying to achieve. And that desperation comes from your own desires. And so it puts you in the wrong place anyway. But when you can really become a resource for a client, for a customer, and a resource is different. It puts you in a different position because now this goes you more into a trusted advisor. So when I work with an organization, I'm going to give advice and insight and referrals and things of nature that I see that they need on any problems that I see. So if I'm working with the organization, I'm there for leadership training. But if I see that, hey, look, they could use some help in a different department. They've got a phone issue and I know a phone company I can connect them with. I'm going to say, hey, here's a person that you can connect with. Hey, you have, salespeople that are trying to buy homes. Hey, let me connect you with a real estate agent friend of mine that can come in here and do some teaching on how to buy your first home. Hey, you got a bunch of people that are trying to buy cars. They're going to the car dealership, getting ripped off in finance. Hey, let's bring in a person from a credit union to help them get lower rates and pre-finance before they go in there to help save the money to reach their dreams. Now, I don't get paid for any of that, but they come to me for everything because they know that my agenda is their agenda, not my agenda. So it ends up prolonging my relationship, my sales, because I'm trying to look how to help them in any area of life versus just the one area that serves me. And so when you can make that shift in that mindset, it changes everything. And the money follows. The money follows because people are first.
Yeah, you build your credibility platform first.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. Well, that's terrific. Hey, Chris, for any listeners out there that want to get a hold of you and maybe learn more about the John Maxwell team or what you do, what's the best way for them to contact you or learn more about you?
Yeah. So if you want to find out more about John Maxwell Team, you can go to johnmaxwellteam.com. Find out more about becoming a coach, speaker, trainer, more leadership development. If that's something that you're interested in, we'd love to have you find out more information about that.
Yeah, excellent. You can also contact me as well. So I might get some kind of a finder's fee for bringing somebody.
Joe, and Joel will get you all the information that you need. There we go.
Fair enough,
Awesome.
guys. Well, hey, we would love to have you guys subscribe to our podcast. If you haven't already, we'd also love to hear your feedback and tell us what you think about us on our show or Chris, or if you have questions, whatever it might be. But visit us at superherosidekick.com and visit our Facebook page also at Superhero Sidekick. So, hey, thank you very much, Chris. We really appreciate your time, and it's terrific talking with you, and hopefully we can have you on again here real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thanks.
All right, see you, Chris.